Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient. Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient.
Hello, I am very, very excited to have Cullen Vance, my friend, and I get to interview him today. Very, very excited. He's a multimedia, a multimedium, I should say. He's a performer on so many levels. So I'm going to start, Cullen, by kind of asking you to give a kind of a short biography of yourself and who you are and what you do.
Well, hello again. Thanks for having me. So yes, hello. My name is Cullen Vance. I am a full-time independent artist, freelancer. I want to make sure you can hear me. It says it's not showing up here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. It says just fine on my side.
Okay. There we go. Yes, so I am a musician. I'm an animator. I'm a professional storyteller. I do website design. I also do audio editing. And I'm a composer. So I write everything from pieces for dance to full-on rock operas.
So amazing.
So that's a little bit about me. Yeah, based here in Eugene, Oregon. And I've been lucky enough to be doing what I love and be doing it full time, maybe over full time.
That's true.
For I think the last 5 years. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. So what's your current project, or what is one of your current projects, I should say, since you do have a mini?
Well, I do have many that are on the ones, but the ones I can actually talk about, just, the one thing that's really great about working independently and not having a label or even a manager is that I really get to use my time how I like. And so if something just springs up on me and goes, ooh, do that, I actually can go ahead and do it. So a couple of days ago, I was like, oh, wait a second. It's going to be March. Yeah. St. Patrick's Day is coming up. I should do something for that. That would be cool. And what turned into what was just going to be a tiny little 30-second, Instagram video has now turned into a short EP. So I don't know if you know that there's like this phenomenon online of lo-fi chill beats to study and work to. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Like Alex Rainbird type stuff. Alex Rainbird, he does that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like a 24/7 YouTube video that's always going live, and it's all these beats like it's these like really chilled out with jazz chords, and there's usually like rain and stuff, and it's this whole thing. And I said, really? I really would love that style of music, but with Irish music as the structure. So I've actually just in the last couple of days recorded 4 different tracks, and that might be the whole thing. I might add 2 more. We'll see. Wow. But it's called Irish Chill, and I'm hoping, and this is the first place I'm telling anyone about it, is that it'll come out next Wednesday, and it should be out on Spotify, just in time for the weekend before St. Patrick's Day. And I'm so in love with it. I can't wait to share it.
So when you search for it next week, would I search for Irish Chill Cullen Vance? Or is it just Irish Chill by itself?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
That'll be the title of it, but it'll probably narrow it down if you put my name in there.
Right. Well, I don't know. Yeah. That's great. Oh, wow. That's fun. And now, how many different instruments do you play? I'm going to make you count now.
Well, I know I'm looking around. They're all put up on the wall around. I'm surrounded constantly by instruments. They they start in my room here, and then I ran out of space a while ago, and so they go all throughout the house. But on my website it says I play over 24. Those are 24 instruments is what I feel comfortable to put on an album, or to bring any of those I'd feel comfortable bringing with me to a gig. There are other ones on the periphery, like the erhu, which is a Chinese violin. Trumpet. I can technically play about 4 notes, those types of things. But I have them here. That's my one of my hobbies is collecting this strange and wonderful and weird instruments. And some of them are so strange and weird and wonderful that I have yet to figure out how they get themselves onto an album.
What would you say
But yeah,
is one of the
that's there.
What would you say is one of the strangest ones you have? Strangest instruments.
I think the one that takes the award for strangest is it has a name. I think it's called the kumbus. But we call it the banjood. So one of the most, everyone knows the sound of it, but not very many people in this part of the world know that it's called an oud. There's a stringed instrument in the Middle East that is just gorgeous, has this really warm, wonderful tone. I've always wanted one. And then I was at a music shop. This was about 6 months ago. And they had a banjood, which was an oud, except it had a banjo body. Which is it's just the strangest when you look at it. You're like, what? And then when you actually play it, it sounds pretty. I could actually grab it if you want to hear.
I would love to. Absolutely.
Let me go. I'll be right back.
Oh, thank you. Oh, how exciting. Not only do we get to talk to Cullen, we get to hear him play. That's the best. I've had the chance to hear Cullen play several times, and every time is something. His music is so alive.
Okay, I'm back. Oh, you're talking about me? That's so nice.
I was.
So this is what happens. You can ask any of the friends that come over here that if you get me talking about instruments, it's like, ooh, let me grab it. Ooh, let me grab it. I'll go. Hold on, I'll be right back. I'll go get it.
Oh, I love that. Actually, it's funny that it's banjo related because I just got a banjo-lele. And I am having so much fun.
Nice.
Oh, it sounds
that
beautiful.
Has such a wonderful, bright, happy sound. I don't have one. I have 2 ukuleles. I have a concert, and I have a baritone, but I don't have a banjolele. So those are great. Fun. I do have. Wait, no, I have 3. Do you know a U bass? You've got me nerding out on this.
Yes.
Just the right question to ask. So I have a U bass, which has it has 4 bass strings of a bass guitar, so that low E on a ukulele body. It sounds so cool. Anyway, here's the banjood. You ready?
Okay. Absolutely.
Isn't that cool? It's so strange.
Wow,
and it looks like if I could describe it to the audience, it looks like a bucket. It looks like a silver bucket that they put a plastic sheet over, and then they literally nailed a fretless guitar neck to the side of it.
Wow.
And that's the sound you just heard.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, how fun. And tell me again what you said this was from the Middle East is where it comes from?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, I should do more research on of course on all of these, but my memories tells me that it's from Turkey is where it's based out of.
Oh, so cool. I'm trying to think of where it would be good.
Instrument.
Yeah. Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
I like that. Now, are you doing a lot of live looping these days?
I am. One of the best things that's happened recently in my career is that I've been hired by the University of Oregon's dance department. Oh, my computer fell. The best things that's happened in my career is that I've been hired by the University of Oregon dance department to come in and improvise for their modern dance classes, which is just so cool. So, so I do something called live looping, which I think most people are familiar with now, just because it is becoming so popular. But for those that don't know, the way it works is that I don't have anything pre-recorded, and then I push a button to start recording, and I'll do something like, or I'll play something on violin or something, and then I got to hit that button at just the right time, and it loops it perfectly, giving me a tempo, giving me, a tonality, on top of which I then build harmonies, build rhythms, and keep going. And I've gotten pretty good at this so that I can actually keep the idea or whatever the song is going and morphing from one thing to the next. The longest I've ever gone is an hour and a half without stopping, which is kind of like juggling. It's juggling musical. You're going from D major to then you hit the E minor, and they're like, see if we can pull off going to A major from here. Can I go from a 3 to a 5 to a 7? Back to a 6. So how do I that kind of stuff? And then surprisingly, the U of O had a place like, hey, we would love if you would do that in the corner, and we'll dance to it. So that's what I've been doing.
Wow.
For the last, I think 6 months or so. So that's where I've been actually doing a lot of my quote unquote performing, is just for these students, which is really nice. It's early in the morning and it's in these great big halls. And it's so great. And I get to do the weirdest, fun stuff that I can think up. And it's constantly pushing me, which is wonderful.
Oh, it sounds like a great place to try out stuff that you can then expand on later if you want to.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's cool. And
the other side, I've been doing it. Is that? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no. The other side, you've been doing what? Sorry, there's a little bit of a delay.
Yeah, a little lag. That makes sense. And so my music has been, I've been doing it for, my whole life, but the live looping side of it I've been doing since, I think it was 2013 is when I started, maybe a little bit earlier than that, 2012. And it's been hard, I'm not going to lie, about trying to find where my music fits in the world, where this stuff actually makes sense, where people want to listen to it. And the closest that I've got is wineries, which is not ideal as a long-term situation, since it's such background music, and the whole idea is that you're supposed to be just kind of forgotten in the background, which is fine. But of course, that's not what I want my whole career to be. Yeah. And then, almost at the same time, the U of O approaches me about dance, and I got approached by the ecstatic dance community here in Eugene, which is an amazing community of people who just want to move. They just want to move their bodies to anything that moves them. And so we found it's kind of a perfect match. I've played for them maybe 6 times just for that, that community, just in the last month or two. Where I show up, I don't have anything prepared, and they start moving, and I make up the music based off of what they're doing. They're dancing to me, I'm making up it off of them, and it's this feedback loop. Goes on for an hour and a half. It is so much fun. So it feels like only in the last 2 months that I've actually felt like, oh, here's where my music can breathe and live and grow, and develop in a community of people who aren't just sitting there and listening, which is fine, which is most of music performing, but are active in the creation process, that it's this collaboration in real time. That thrills me to no end.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that makes sense. And it's so different than recording albums, which you also do. And you just had one come out recently, correct?
I must have. I've been doing singles. It's hard to keep track as a freelancer. You have to wear so many different hats. So it gets hard to keep track of everything you've done. Yes, I've released 2 singles recently, and then the one that just came out in October was Cullen Volume 1, which is the first in a series of 3, I believe. It's always hard when you're in the middle of it to figure out how far it's going to go. But yeah, I'm already starting on Cullen Volume 2 is going on in the background, which has got some very crunchy stuff. Definitely pulling from a lot of different places.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I think one of the best metaphors. Okay, well, let me start over here. So I'm also an animator. I do stop motion animation, 2D animation, 3D animation. And what one of my idols, Jacob Collier, described that making music live is like, is improvising in real time. Mm-hmm. And recording an album is like improvising one frame at a time. It's like stop motion animation for music. What I try to do in the studio is kind of the best improv performance that isn't improv, kind of on the fly. I want the music to feel cohesive and put together, but have it have life and energy. And the only way to do that is in these short bursts of performance. So when you listen to my music, it really is me pushing record and improvising over and over and over until something sticks. And then moving on one step at a time. And it's a different way of approaching the music. And I find that to push myself forward as an artist, I need both. I need the time in the studio, that alone time to mess up and make really terrible sounds and know that they don't work. And then I need the live aspect, where there's stakes. There's some real stakes there, and it needs to be good. And having those two, I think that's how I know so many instruments, because there's so much growth in those places and it never gets stagnant.
Ooh, that's wonderful. Well, and I certainly see you as a very resilient person, and I think that's obviously my focus, because that's the
Right.
title of my project lately. But I see, being a musician, you have to constantly reinvent yourself and reinvent your work and make it fresh and new all the time.
Right.
And so it makes sense that you would have to have something that feeds that. That makes perfect sense.
Absolutely.
Now,
I
do you
think
have?
it's that. I think the danger. Oh,
No, please.
sorry. Go ahead.
No.
I think the lag's getting worse.
Yes. No, you think
I think the
is
danger. I think the danger of getting stuck or getting caught in the stagnicity, is that a word?
Could be.
Could be.
It is
Let's
now.
make it one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the danger is when you feel like you hear this from people who have had success, especially success at an early age. And I'm talking about everyone knows who you are kind of success, where you feel that pressure. I have not had that. Actually, I'm kind of grateful, because the story I hear over and over is that they go, I did that one thing one time when I was 22. And now I feel like I'm stuck. I have to do that. Anytime I deviate from that, people go, hey, that's not who you are. The classic story. I don't know if this is true, but musicians talk about Bob Dylan bringing an electric guitar on stage and people booing him off the stage, because what did not fit into what they thought. But I think the opposite of that is the answer, because we, in a very Buddhist sense, every day we wake up a different person. Every moment we are a new, fresh, different person. And I think as long as you're creating from that place, from the place of the present, you're always going to have something to say. There's always going to be something to do. In fact, I think the worry shouldn't be, will I not have something to say? I think the worry should be, or at least the worry that I have, I don't know if should, but the worry that I have is, do I have enough time to say all the things to put down in music or in words or in animation or in a character on stage, the thoughts and feelings and expressions that are pouring through me every second? And the answer is no, there's never going to be enough time. But when you do capture something, it's just magic. Yeah.
Ooh, I feel the same way. I have so many things that I want to get out. And like you say, it's just a matter of time. So you have to be an octopus and do as many as you can. So
that's right. At the same time.
Yeah, if you can. I think of the old Richard Scarry cartoons with the octopus that had different hats in each hand.
Yeah.
Very visual.
Those are timeless. Yeah.
I know. I love those. So what kind of... Oh, you will say?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask you, that makes me think of spiritual practices and things that you do in your life to make you feel peaceful and to act as self-care for you. Do you find as an artist that you have time to do those kinds of things? Or do you make those kinds of things a priority? Things like self-care and spiritual practices? And
you have to. I mean, you have to. So, I mean, I'll give a little bit, since we are talking about, resiliency. So I mean, I was diagnosed with depression and an anxiety disorder in high school, and it's something that I deal with every single day. And though I've been open about it in my art, I actually think it's something that a lot of people don't know about me. That I'm incredibly anxious. And I think it's actually I mean, it's hard. You can hear it in my voice. It's hard to talk about. But when I was, this is about 2 years ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, I was just getting myself into a frenzy. This existential fear of, do I have enough time to get everything down? I am working so hard. I feel so much. I have so much to say. I have so much I want to do. And the biggest thing is that I have so much I want to learn. Do I have enough time to do all of this? Or, is my time going to be cut short? And that might be, coming from the other people. I have had people in my life who times were ended far too early. And I think that those events resonate deeply in my life and in my work, for better or for worse. And so this kind of all culminated, was it last year or 2 years ago? It's hard. It's hard to put together. I worked myself to the bone. I pushed through when you shouldn't push through. I did not take care of myself. I didn't sleep. Eating was rough. And I was producing so much. I was, recording and releasing albums and singles. I think there was something new every 2 or 3 weeks. I was trying to make, a full album in 1 week. With my wife, I made, 2 or 3 video games. I'm also a video game designer. There's so much I didn't say at the beginning. And I pushed myself way too hard, and I paid for it deeply by I spent time in the hospital. I got myself sick. I think my immune system got so run down that I actually got meningitis, and was in the hospital for 7 days. And it took me, it was close. You can tell when the nurses and the doctors, there's something in their eyes and in their gestures that you're like, they're worried. Uh-oh, you start thinking, should I start praying or something? Like, what, what's going on? How did this happen? And it was terrifying. It was absolutely scary. And all, like, in the middle of all of that deep pain, I had nerve damage that was going to happen. That did happen. I lost, and still have lost, feeling in a part of my face. And, I was terrified that I was like, oh my gosh, I might survive this, but I might not be able to use my hands, or I might lose my hearing, which is so common, or vision. Everything was on the table. And I had those moments of, laying in the hospital bed at like 3 a.m. and looking and being like, at any moment, the lights could go out. And I see now that it was the manifestation. It was everything I was afraid of, just put right in my face. That was like, Cullen, if you're afraid that you're going to die young and not have enough time, well, here's what that feels like.
Oh my gosh.
Here it is. Yeah.
Wow.
So live it. Like, if you're not going to be able to get through this, here it is. And so I had the week in the hospital, and it took me maybe 2 months of real recovery, not just from the disease itself, but also, they put you on opioids. So now part of the process for most people is getting off of the drugs, which is just it was fine for me. Luckily, I was able to get through that with the help of the medical professionals that were like, hey, don't, take this lightly. And now I see why. So luckily that was all through. But anyway, it was the process of looking my deepest fear in the face and going, I can do it. Like, if it happened, the stuff that was behind me, the work I did lay down, was enough. It was enough. And it wasn't even the albums. It was this sounds so corny, but it's true. It was my son. It was my wife. It was the friendships. It was the time I taught. It was the time that I spent with people. That's the legacy that would have been left behind. not the video games, though they would be there, and I hope people would still enjoy them. But that's not what it's about. And though I will say that there's still times when I get myself all caught in it. You get caught in the rat race trying to produce in such a competitive market. But anytime I start feeling like I'm getting a little too tense about this, I just remember, hey, it's not worth it. And it is what it's about, and it's not what it's about as well, if that makes any sense.
No, absolutely. I mean, unfortunately, sometimes I always say people like me have to be, literally hit in the head to understand it because I have a brain injury.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but
that's right.
it's just funny. It's interesting how awful it is sometimes that things like that, incredibly difficult experiences, you don't recognize the value of the things you have given or the things and it helps to really appreciate, unfortunately. Like, I could do with less of that kind of reminder, and I'm sure you could too.
Right. Yeah.
So, what is your
true.
support? What's your support system like? Do you have, I know your family, you're really tight with your family. And is that helpful for you? It sounds like being with your family was very helpful in your recovery process from that.
Oh yeah. Well, absolutely. I think being honest with them is really what helped me and helps me still. There's that part of me that, when I was growing up, and this is very common. So I don't blame my parents for this, but it was it was always a big mystery. I never really knew what was going on. Dad would be mad and I wouldn't know why. Mom would be, upset about something or another, and I wouldn't know why. And I understand that it was in an effort to keep my childhood, pure, I guess. You shouldn't worry kids about that kind of stuff. But the fact of the matter is that kids pick up on it. And what I have found is that being honest with my son about, like, I'm working on this thing and I'm so frustrated, I'm going to bang my head through the wall, for him to be like, oh, you're not mad at me. Okay. And then he'll actually try to help, And so I've found that being honest, even with my son, he's only 6, being honest with him and being like, or I had a really terrible day at work and, blah, blah. I don't want to go into all the specifics, but just sharing that I'm a human and that I have feelings. And then he shares with me, of course, when he's going through things. So that kind of relationship with him, and of course with my wife, we talk about absolutely everything, has been instrumental in me trying to figure out my own career, my own life, trying, not having to do this on my own.
Do you find it hard to ask for help, or is it easy now?
Oh no, it's very difficult. Even for my wife, even asking her. I mean, the people that, there's a social contract I should already set up for me to be able to ask for help. And even then, yeah. I find it much more difficult with friends. And I won't lie that we live in even though we're the most connected that the species has ever been, we're so incredibly isolated. And it's hard, I think, especially for people who feel, artists, I should say. I was going to say people who feel this deeply, but really it's just artists who, we get our material from people. We get our, we're making this as a way of trying to communicate something deeper to the populace or to the community. And it's so hard to do that just alone in a bedroom. So I don't have all the answers. I'm still trying to figure that part out about how to build a sense of community. I've gotten a little hints of it, I think, from the ecstatic dance community, the family that they've built around just the joyous expression of what that is that they love to do. But yeah, I'm still learning how to ask for help. I'm still learning how to ask for, for community. Yeah.
I think that's a really hard one, and that's part of I think. I told you before we started. That's part of what I'm trying to do within my personal community as well. It's just hard to connect people.
Yeah. Well, we're all. I think it's from a place of fear.
I think you're right. I think
the lag has gotten so bad now.
I know. I don't know. Luckily, you're forgiving. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what kind of routines do you have in place for, like, what is a typical day as an artist? And I'm just blanketing all of your stuff under artist.
Hmm.
Like, what do you do? What, like, during your typical days? What kind of, do you have a certain blocks of time set aside, or are you more free flowing?
Well, I think I have tried so much. I read this wonderful, wonderful book called Deep Work. I forget who the author is. It was very famous. It was like #1 New York Times bestseller for a second. Where he was like, make blocks of your life and do it this way. And routine is how you're going to get everything you want done. And just no, that's just not, I tried so hard to make that work. And I found that no, that's just not how I operate. So a typical day for me is I wake up, and I think the only ritual that I really do have in my life is coffee morning.
Uh-huh. I like
Dropping
that
my
one.
son off at school. Yeah. And then picking him up. And everything in between. I might be at the U of O some days, because those are just, whatever days those classes are. Other days I might be going to some weird conference to teach people how to do improv. Another day I wake up and I have to immediately jump into Logic to do music, or, Blender for animation or something. It's all over the place. Every single day is different. And I think that's really just, that's me. That's how I love to live. If I did have to do anything every day, even if it was like the music, even if it was the thing that is the closest to my heart, I think I would end up hating it after about 5 days. So this is the best way for me. Is every single day I wake up, and thank goodness for Google Calendar, because that's the first thing I look at every morning. I go, who do I have to be today? Okay, I'm an improv teacher today, or okay, I'm an animator today, and I put on my animator hat, and that's what I do.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned Google Calendar. That is, I mean, in my world, that's what's known as an adaptive tool. And it's an incredible one.
Yeah.
Why fight technology? Make
It's
it
really
work
good.
with you, not against it. Like,
That's right.
oh,
That's exactly right.
I'm trying to make things work for good and not evil. Anyway, if I can.
Yeah.
So what's
It gets tricky. It gets tricky.
It does, yes. Well, it's interesting. We try in our house to do like less technology, and but because we want more real FaceTime with not FaceTime like FaceTime, but
Right.
more interpersonal communication is what I'm saying. with our kids and with our friends and family. And it's increasingly difficult because there are so many good ways to connect using technology and stuff like that. So I find that that's a constant struggle for me. It's just funny that you mentioned that. And now,
I think it's the what's on. Oh,
No?
I think it's what's on the forefront of my mind these days too. I'm reading a lot. That my another hat that I have, I think I mentioned, is that I'm a storyteller. And my emphasis these days in storytelling, I think, will probably for the rest of my life, is Irish mythology. It's my heritage, my blood,
Mm-hmm.
And the more I dig into Irish mythology, the more I realize just that these stories were about about community in that kind of family sense, and in that way of like, everybody in town, everybody knows you, everyone knows these stories. We have, a kind of collective narrative that we can kind of build off of.
Right.
And I think the closest that we get in America is like Star Wars, maybe Lord of the Rings, but that's even like, maybe back in the early 2000s, you'd have a better chance of that. But nowadays, or Harry Potter, I think it comes down to Harry Potter and Star Wars, and nothing wrong with those, Hero's Journey. That's good stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But it's very, very, it's a far shot from what it is that actually holds a culture together, and what holds communities together. I think still feeling my way through this, but in my own life, what the answer that keeps calling to me is that storytelling is how I'll find that community. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I'm gonna keep working. I'm working on a one-man show right now that's based around the 4 cycles of Irish mythology, that I'm hoping to be able to do at the Oregon Country Fair this year. And I'm hoping that somehow that can reignite a sense of community. But anyway, yeah, all that to say that it's been on my mind too, of how do we connect? How do we connect?
So what are your favorite books? What are you reading these days?
Oh man. Well, I mean, my everything right now is Lady Gregory's Complete Irish Mythology. I'm just reading those stories over and over and over again. But I always keep a copy of the Tao Te Ching right next to me. So that's my spiritual practice. I consider myself a Taoist and a Celtic Reconstructionist. And actually, the one that I'm turning to a lot these days is called The Sage's Tao. I believe that's what it's called. By, where is he? William Martin. By William Martin. This wonderful man did these 3 books where he translates the Tao Te Ching through a certain lens. So the first one that he did was the Lover's Tao, I believe was the first one he did. Or maybe it was the Parent's Tao. He did the Lover's Tao, the Parent's Tao, and the Sage's Tao. It's the same classic Chinese, spiritual kind of text, but translated from the Chinese into English through the lens of, say, parenting. And so every lesson, every metaphor is through that lens. And it's so wonderful. The first one's for romantic relationships. The second one is for parenting. And the third one, which I cannot put down, is called The Sage's Tao. And it says it's ancient advice for the second half of life. And he wrote it at the end of his life. He's passed away now. And it's all about looking back, making peace with what's back there, and really knowing how to be present in the moment and live it fully, with everything behind you kind of informing and enriching that experience. And even though I'm only 28, and this is meant for people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, I love it. I love it so much. I think it's classic and wonderful advice. So I would recommend it to anyone, The Sage's Tao.
Ooh, I'm going to have to get that. Oh, I like that. And I mean, you may be young in years, but you're obviously an old soul. So
yeah,
I'm sure that's not the first time you've been told that.
No, I heard a joke recently that when someone calls you an old soul, they're just saying, you must have been through a lot.
Okay, yeah.
Which is so true. I know what you meant by it, of course, but
Right.
I think that's what it translates to. But there you go. Yeah.
Well, I think you're right. And to be fair, people tell me that too. So I get it.
Yeah.
So what's next
I
for you?
recognize, I think it's only people who, okay.
No,
okay. Now I can ramble all day. Let's see. What is next? I'm going to be so I do a show every year with the U of O called Intertwined, where they bring on 12 usually amateur storytellers. For some of them, it's their first time on stage ever, and they're telling personal stories. So this isn't like mythology; it's like a personal mythology. It's always around a theme. Either it might be journeys or it might be home. And so these wonderful students and people of the faculty, it's the U of O community, get up on stage, tell their stories, and live I'm behind them and I score their stories like a movie, with piano and violin and guitar and whatever else might call for it. It's usually an incredibly amazing, emotional, cathartic experience. And so few people know that it even happens, but it happens every year. And it's called Intertwined. And I believe that this year it is in April. Here, look at me going to Google Calendar. You should get them to sponsor this show. Where is it? Oh, it's May. Yes, May 7th and 8th is Intertwined. I think last year it was free. Like, I think they didn't charge anyone to come. I think that's true. So that's coming up. I'm also performing at Tsunami Books in June. I'm hoping that can be my volume 2 CD release. It just depends on how much more I book for myself, but that'll be June 5th at Tsunami Books in the evening there. And then on a personal note, oh my gosh, my wife and we are going to Ireland this summer for the very first time. It's so exciting.
Wow.
I
Wow.
know.
Oh my gosh.
I cannot stand it.
Oh my gosh.
I know that's been one of the other things. Yeah. Here, so this is kind of a serious, but it's also the theme of the podcast. So when I was recovering, I had asked myself from my sickness, I had asked myself if I had two regrets. If there's, if I left the planet, was there anything? My first one was that I was too hard on myself. That's something I think about all the time. That if I had died at that time, I would have been like, why was I so mean to Cullen?
Right.
I knew him my whole life. Why was I so mean to that guy? And then the second one was Ireland. Never went to Ireland. And so this summer I'll get to cross that one off the bucket list. And we're so excited. We're studying Irish. We're watching all these documentaries. We've got our whole thing planned. I can't tell you how exciting it is.
Oh my gosh. Where are you going to? Do you have it all mapped out?
Oh, we got it. Oh man. Yeah. It's so good. We're going into Dublin. We're going to spend a couple nights in Dublin. We're going to see the Book of Kells at Trinity College. We might do the Guinness thing. That's like the big touristy thing. So we'll see if we can do that. But there's a lot of other places that we want to hit. After Dublin, we're having a Meath Day, a county Meath Day, and we're going to go to the Hill of Tara, which is in all of the stories. So I actually get to be on the ground, the royal ground of where. Oh, that's going to happen. We're going to go to Newgrange, which is one of the oldest Neolithic tombs. It's something like 6,000 years old or something like that, which is wild. And then we're going to drive all the way through. We're going to hit Kells, and then we're going to see the Hill of Ishnach, which is where the May Day, the Beltane rituals were held for so long, the first fires of the year. And then all the way over to Galway, where we'll spend. We have some friends that we're going to meet up there who we've been learning the Irish language from. And then we're going to head down to Dingle Peninsula, which is National Geographic. Oh my goodness, giraffe. National Geographic's most beautiful place on the earth. So we're going to hang out there for a couple of days. We're going to go over to Cork, and we're going to chill out in Cork because apparently that's the place to chill out. And then we'll head back to the rocky road to Dublin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we'll fly home.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness.
So exciting.
Oh, I'm so thrilled for you. Oh.
Yeah. It's like a combination of, it's a history, music, mythology trip, and language. So it's we're hitting all the places, and it will be so good since I am building this one person show around Irish mythology to be able to tell these stories and know that I've been to the places where my blood is from, and I've touched the Leafall, the Stone of Destiny. I've stood on Hill of Tara, and I can tell those stories from that place. Oh, I can't wait.
Oh, I can't either. I'm so excited. Oh, that's fun. That's really fun. Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for talking to me. This has been really wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
I want to make sure I have all the links to your socials I will have those in the show notes. And I'll have links to your other your website and all of the ways people can get a hold of you. And do you have any questions?
I'll just put it out there that the best way to support me is to follow me on Instagram and to follow me on Spotify, and just share my stuff if you do like my stuff. And the best thing to do is to actually just put it out there into the world. It's amazing how many gigs look at Instagram followers to see if they should book someone before they hear a single note of music. They look at the Instagram followers. So strangely enough, that's one of the best ways to support me.
And your Instagram handle is?
Cullen Vance Creative.
Oh, perfect. Cullen Vance Creative. I'll make sure I get that down too. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking with you.
This was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Sometimes we have to start over. Sometimes we have to fight back. Sometimes it's all too much. Lost inside the black. Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient. Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient. Sometimes we need to lift the voices of those who've overcome and expose the ones that made the choices to stay and fight, not run.